History's new scripted drama, Sons of Liberty, tells the untold story of a group of rebels who brought an empire to its knees. Sons of Liberty, a 3-night event, premieres January 25th, 9/8 Central, on History.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
We get a lot of calls on this show concerning Mark Richt. Tired of Mark Richt. We want to make a change. We hear that all the time. For what reason? I'm not certain. Well, bad news. Mark Richt, just moments ago, contract extension until 2019. His salary bump, and boy, he needed it. He was making $3.2 million a year, and now he's making $4 million. And for you Mark Richt haters out there, you'll have to find something else to complain about, because it looks like Mark Richt will be at Georgia for a few more years. Now the story about Donnie Tyndall. He left Southern Miss in the midst of an investigation, and last night the NCAA came down hard on Southern Miss. Well, they made a joint deal. The school announced a self-imposed postseason ban. The penalty stems from the NCAA's inquiry of the program from the 2012-13 and 2013 academic years. Those years correspond exactly to where the now Tennessee coach was there. Tyndall last night in Columbia, South Carolina, said, "All I can say is I've cooperated 100%, and if I need to, I will cooperate. I will continue to do that." That's all I can say on that matter. The school also issued a statement, but you have to wonder about his future. The program has been up and down and all around since Bruce Pearl was fired a number of years ago. He's already back in college basketball. The mess last year, at the end of the year, even though Tennessee made it to the Sweet 16 and nearly made it to the Elite Eight, and a lot of people wondered about the hiring of him, and they're wondering even more now. We'll follow that story up as we move throughout the program. Before we get too heavy into the weeds, we'll get to your phone calls at 855-242-7285. Love to hear from you. And why don't we begin with Devin in San Antonio. How are you, Devin?
Good. How are you?
I'm well, thank you.
Yeah, they should let go of that Tennessee coach. If he's going to sit there and make a mess at Tennessee, why not bring someone else in that is respected and has a better coaching history? Why not hire?
Well, listen, Coach Tyndall when he was hired, I mean, he had a good reputation. I mean, I know that that situation came out of nowhere last year at Tennessee, and the school was up against the wall. There were a couple of, as you remember, Mizzou lost its coach, and then Tennessee lost its coach, and it was back and forth for a while. So, I mean, I don't know. I mean, Dave Hart, to me, is one of the better athletic directors out there. He's done a really nice job putting the football program back together again, but the basketball program, which I think is definitely under the spotlight tonight.
Yeah, they need to go in a different direction. I mean, you have the women's side and then the football. They're well-respected programs. And now you have the men. That just needs to be put back together. You can't have that. You can't have that going around that you don't have kids in class and they're not doing what they're supposed to do.
Well, don't forget, before we get carried away, I mean, these issues occurred in Hattiesburg, Mississippi, not in Knoxville, Tennessee. But I would be interested to get some reaction from Tennessee people on how they feel. I know that the program has won a couple of big games lately, and let me say this: that's a big-time program up in Knoxville. They had it going under Bruce Pearl. They have one of the biggest arenas in the SEC, but dark clouds like this are not good for a program at all. Let's continue with more calls. I know many of you have been inundated all day about deflated balls. That's footballs in New England. So we're glad to offer you a respite from everything else down the dial. Let's check in with Rob in Ocala, Florida. How are you, Rob?
Hey, what's going on, Paul?
Doing great, thank you.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to, I work, so I can't call every day. But, the other day I was listening to the show, and you were talking to somebody from Jacksonville, and I think he kind of made you upset or whatever. So you kind of had a, down period with Florida. So I kind of wanted to give you my opinion on Florida, never minding that guy, and kind of talk about our dominance, in recent history and what we're going to do in the upcoming future. And I just kind of think from 92 to 2002, if you look at it, I mean, we were the SEC best. So when you say that, And then you look at 2000, the year from 2000 to 2010. We're doing this in 10-year intervals here. Mm-hmm. If you look at 2000 and 2010, the Gators had the abysmal first half of that decade. Then the later half of that decade, they pretty much dominated. Alabama came and merged, and they did what they've done since then. And that's been what? Since 2008 to now? So what I'm saying is that Alabama's been who they are. But Florida, the UF brand is a big, huge brand that I think is second only to possibly them in the SEC. So
no, listen, Rob. If you're looking at SEC football programs as if they were stocks on Wall Street, that's how I do it. I mean, everyone knows who's won the most and who hasn't, but Florida is a brand. It's an incredible brand, and when Florida football is hitting at all cylinders, it's hard to find. You can argue Alabama, but Florida's a bigger state. Probably has a bigger reach, but the two are 1 and 2, I think, in many respects. Now, everyone has an argument on that, and that's for another day. But I mean, your point is a good one. The question now is, can Florida get it back together again? I mean, Will Muschamp, no matter how you slice it, no matter how excited Auburn fans are about him being the defensive coordinator, failed at Florida. He failed for many reasons, but ultimately he failed because he couldn't handle the job as a head coach.
Yes, sir. Now, can I comment on that?
Sure.
All right. So I was reading an article as well today about, our recruiting situation. And our recruiting situation is not in the best of periods. But I tell you what, with the all-star cast that we've got right now, I mean, who would not want to come to play? They just spent $15 million on the indoor practice facility and a lot of other stuff going along with that. So, I mean, as far as what I look at with Muschamp, the situation with that, I mean, I can't believe all of the damage that has been done from it. It is pretty bad when you really look at it. But at the same time, hey, he went to Auburn, and right now they're under the heel of Alabama, and I still feel like Alabama's going to be dominant in the West in due season. We'll see that because Nick Saban is who he is. But Florida on the other side, other than Tennessee, I really feel like Georgia, hey, they're our little brother, and it is what it is. Mark Richt, I don't know whether they can never turn that corner against us, and I feel like that'll continue. We haven't lost any talent to where we're going to be detrimental next year.
Rob, I mean, here's what you're going to have to do. I think some Georgia fans, thanks for the call, by the way. I think Georgia fans might resent being called your little brother, but we'll give them a chance to respond to that. Travis is next up. Travis, you're in Tennessee, and thank you for the phone call. Good afternoon.
Good talking to you.
You bet.
I'm in Jonesboro, Tennessee. Big-time UT fan, football, basketball.
Mm-hmm.
I think our football team's not next year, but I think when our quarterback's a senior, we could make some waves again like we used to. Not next year, one more year. We'll have a respectable record this upcoming year, but 2 years, I think we'll be back on the map. I kind of want to talk about basketball.
Sure.
Coach Tyndall. I like the guy. I think he's a heck of a coach. I don't know what happened at Southern Miss. Some players got paid maybe a little bit of money. I mean, I don't know the whole detail. Can you enlighten me on what happened there?
Yeah, it's a financial aid situation with two players, and the bottom line is these things. I mean, this isn't a case of the coach backing up a Brinks truck. There's some questionable situations that occurred, or allegedly, well, not allegedly. The NCAA has made these allegations. The school has owned up, and you hope it moves on. But clearly, Southern Miss
does a fabulous job. I mean,
well, but don't forget, Southern Miss is
110%.
That's not the point.
He's a Bruce Pearl type coach.
Well, let me listen to me for 1 second, though. I don't have any argument with this. The question is, can he survive? This is a school that doesn't need any more scandals in the basketball program.
We've had enough.
Yeah.
Do you personally think he survives?
I can't answer that right now. I mean, I think. All I can say is what I know. I know Dave Hart very well, the athletic director, and the Dave Hart that I've known for a long time is a person that would have vetted this coach out. He would have checked everywhere he could possibly check. and be assured that the coach, even though he was the head of the program, was not personally involved in something that would bring embarrassment to Tennessee. I believe that.
I hope he survives because he did great at Moorhead. He gave Louisville fits when he was there. I don't know what his record against Kentucky was at Moorhead State. I think he's a fantastic coach. On the sideline, he gives it 110% like the players, and I think if he survives.
Well, let me briefly explain. And by the way, we don't know all the facts. There have been reports. I'll just read them to you. I want to make sure I'm careful on this.
All right.
But according to one report, he is involved, or the school is involved in an ongoing investigation, and the question is whether ineligible players received financial aid. Now, you're the head coach. I don't know whether. I doubt seriously that. The coach was on the back end of this. The question is, did he know about it? What did he do about it? And we'll find out.
We'll find out. Hey, I hope he survives. I think he's a good man. I think he's a heck of a ball coach. I like him for a coach of Tennessee. I think Dave Hart made a great decision in bringing him in. I hope that we don't go through the Pearl thing again. Maybe we won't. Enjoy your show every day. Love listening to it.
Well, let me say this about the Pearl situation, and this is from knowing Bruce for a long time. That was a classic case of someone who all he had to do was tell the truth. Had he told the truth, it would have been a fairly minor situation. But he lied, and he perpetuated the lie, and Coach Pearl paid an enormous price, about as hefty a price as anyone has paid in a long time. I mean, he had the deal of a lifetime. He was beloved. He had that program going places within minutes of a Final Four. He couldn't walk down the street without being mobbed, and he made a mistake. He's owned up to it. There's nothing else you can do. He let a lot of people down, and I think that's why he didn't have to go to Siberia for 3 years. He worked for ESPN, which wasn't a bad gig, but he was prohibited from doing the thing that he loved the most. He's now doing that in Auburn. I'm not suggesting anything. I'm just simply reporting the news and asking questions. That's what we do here. But it's a situation a lot of people in Knoxville are nervous about, and that comes with the territory. You hire a coach, he's doing well, people are excited. And then you wake up and there's a story that you didn't see coming, although the story has been there for some time.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
A week and 2 days ago, Chris Fowler, seen by nearly 40 million people, doing the national championship game with Kirk Herbstreit on ESPN in Arlington, Texas. For the last couple of days, he's been doing the Australian Open in Melbourne, Australia. You don't need a map to figure out that is a long way from Texas. And Chris Fowler joins us. Chris, thank you so much for the time. And I admire you on many different fronts, but to be able to pick yourself up after that classic and head and do – I know you do this every year, but it's still pretty amazing to me and many others. Thanks for being with us.
Well, good morning. Yeah, it's about 8 o'clock on Thursday morning in Melbourne. It's going to be 97 degrees today in the middle of the summer. Yeah, good to hear your voice, Paul. I'm intrigued by an invitation to join your show because you probably haven't had a guest phone in from Australia before. I could be wrong, but
no. But Melbourne, Florida, not Melbourne, Australia, though.
There's a big difference. I promise you. Melbourne's a city of a couple million people that it looks a lot like the American city, but also has some European feel to it. Very global city. And for 2 weeks every year, it's the focus of the tennis world, and it's probably the only thing that I would want to do or be able to get up for, after football season, because it's a great job, but you are pretty worn out, and you get in the plane from L.A., and it's about 15 hours plus to get down here, and you shift gears to a totally different kind of sport, and you go from the end of football season to the very beginning of tennis season. This is the first Grand Slam of the year, and it's kind of the first time these players have a chance to see each other after their, quote-unquote, off-season. So, you switch sports, you go to the beginning of another season, you have to jump back into pronouncing the names of Russian women's tennis players, which change every year and are just as difficult as any football name. So, But as you said, I've done it. I think this is the 13th year I've done it now. So in some ways, it feels really normal. But if you stop and think about it, it's pretty nutty.
I mean, physically and mentally, what is or what are the biggest challenges that you deal with every year when you do this?
Well, I mean, you know, as I said, you sort of you got to find some energy reserves. I mean, look, I mean, you know, our job is fantastic, and I don't whine about any aspect of it. But you know, I could have used some rest. They didn't ask me, but I would have loved to have this tournament moved back a week.
That would have been nice.
You know, I got home from Texas Tuesday. You know, did some laundry, and then you repack and you get ready for you know, a 2.5-week business trip away again. But as I said, you know, the tennis group I work with, you know, for them, they're all pumped up because we're lucky enough at ESPN to have all 4 Grand Slam tournaments. So for us, it's the beginning of a really cool 2015, and you just get in the plane, and you know, fortunately, I can sleep on planes, and you know, to be honest, I'm not. You know, I'm not sitting in, you know, 56Z. It's a pretty comfortable seat down here. So
you're like us.
I get down here. I sleep on planes. I get down here. It's, as I said, the sun is shining. It's warm. It's summer. There's a new challenge in front of me. You go do it.
No, and we're watching Nadal on, and I won't give it away for those who are watching it who think this is live. I've had a couple of people say, "Man, how's Chris going to be on?" Because Nadal is in big trouble right now. I guess he survived.
That's the thing about this, Paul. You know, tennis. You think you have these you know, predictable scripts that a match is going to follow, and you step in there expecting that, you know, this is going to be, you know, 90 minutes or less, and you're going to be out the door, and things change, and all of a sudden you find yourself describing something really unexpected that goes 4.5 hours, and you know, I've seen it happen many times, but it still catches you off guard sometimes. I mean, that Nadal match, after the way he looked, his first match down here, he destroyed a guy who had beaten him 4 times, and it was an established veteran. His second-round match, he plays a qualifier from Milwaukee, which means he had to win 3 matches just to get into the Australian Open, named Tim Smichek, who he'd never played before, who it was all just kind of gravy for Smichek, even being on that court against Nadal, and it turns into this, you know, monumental battle for Rafa. So, but that's what's fun about tennis. I wish more people cared about it. I'm surprised that we're talking about tennis on your show, because I don't think a lot of my college football fans. I mean, there are some who like both sports, but there are a lot who have no time for tennis. And I wish that weren't the case, because even though there aren't a lot of top American men, to say the least, on the tour right now, it's such a great sport that offers a lot.
Well, I remember last year, I can't remember what time I got up to watch Nadal and Federer last year from Melbourne. It was a riveting matchup, and I know you were right there. Talk a little bit about covering such iconic figures like Federer, and what does it look like for him in the future?
Well, it's amazing to cover the personalities of the sport. I mean, you know, this is a golden era of men's tennis that we're trying to hold on to as long as we can. Federer, the greatest of all time resume, you know, trying to you know, defy nature, because you're not supposed to win majors of tennis after you're 30, and he's you know, 33 now, and trying to continue to do it. And I think that you know, Djokovic certainly has the potential to finish as one of the greatest players of all time. Rafa already is in that conversation. Andy Murray, and then you got these young guys that are trying to push their way into the conversation. So, and they're all different personalities, and they have different games. And I think we'll look back at this era and say, wow, you know, we really had it great. But you know, it may be winding down, because you see Rafa, you know, his body's betrayed him in recent years, and like I said, Roger is trying to push through and find a way to win 7 matches and win a major, something he hasn't done since Wimbledon 2012. And there's so many compelling storylines in the sport. That's just the men's side. The women's side, obviously, there's Serena and others who battle, and it's been really wild down here. The women's seeds, they lost 11 in the first round, which is as many as you lost, you know, ever in a Grand Slam. So it's been really unpredictable on that side down here so far.
In terms of the play-by-play, I mean, we heard you all year long with Kirk, and now you're dealing with a new set of characters, and I use that word loosely, considering John McEnroe was part of that. But I mean, he is well received. There has been well received. Talk about the difference, and I realize we're talking about dramatically different sports.
John is a character. That's a good description. I mean, what's interesting about football is you get used to as a viewer. You tune in to a different game, whether it's college or the NFL, and you get very used to hearing the broadcast team do the games, and there's a very predictable sort of chemistry between people. You get to know each other very well, and it becomes second nature. When you do this job, it's the exact opposite. I would work 3 matches in a day sometimes, and maybe one with John McEnroe, one with Mary Jo Fernandez or Chrissy Everett, one with Brad Gilbert or Darren Cahill or Patrick McEnroe, and they're all very different. They're all extremely different personalities, have different styles. Tennis players, I think, are fiercely individual. They really don't work for anybody. Everybody works for them. Some of those people have never really had real jobs in their life. And when you work with an ex-football player, they sort of understand. It's second nature to them to be part of a team, a collaborative effort. So TV isn't that big an adjustment. For tennis players, it's totally different. And these guys all have their own quirks, their own ways of viewing matches, their own ways of kind of like getting along in the booth, and their own lens that they view it through. And it's my job, to set them up, to navigate the nuts and bolts of the telecast, but also to play off of them to get the best out of them. And that's really, it's fun part of it, but it's really challenging. I mean, it's totally different doing a match with John McEnroe than it is with his brother or Darren or Chrissy Everett. It's just a different sort of challenge, but that's part of the fun.
We'll end with what you did a week ago Monday night, and critically acclaimed. Not that you do it for that, but I'm sure that it had to be at least satisfying to receive a lot of credit for the biggest moment in college football history, to be the voice and to have an enormous audience and really an extraordinary game as well.
Well, thank you. Yeah, no, Kirk and I both felt really proud, and I think so did Heather Cox and Tom Rinaldi and everybody else in the production, because it was a big night for the sport. I mean, not so much for us. It was just, we love college football, and we've covered it for decades. And to have it finally arrive to a playoff championship game and have the setting be so perfect and have a matchup that only the system could have produced. Obviously, we know the BCS would have had a different matchup in the championship game, and to have these two teams earn their way in by winning semifinals. There was a lot of momentum going into the championship game. Yeah, there wasn't an SEC team involved, and people wondered, is anybody in the South going to care? Well, of course they're going to care, because they love college football, and this is the championship game. And so it was nice to see the big audience, the momentum for it, and we were happy with the production. And I think going forward, it's just a really exciting time. I don't think we're going to have too many championship games without a Southern team involved, but I think it was, for fans in the North, it was a little bit of a breath of fresh air. It was a different texture to the game, and I think that Ohio State really earned it. I mean, a lot of us weren't positive when the committee spit out that bracket that they were one of the 4 best teams. I mean, I think that TCU, Baylor could have made equally compelling cases, but in the end, Buckeyes made the committee look very good, and they proved it on the field, and they deserved it. And I think what's exciting is that we're going to have many years to look forward to of that kind of a system, and whether it stays at 4 for a long time or expands to 8. I think already in year 1 we've seen why we should have had this for a long time. But it was a really cool night for the sport, Paul, and really fun to be a part of.
Well, it was great. Thanks so much. On Thursday morning from Melbourne, Chris, I really appreciate your time, and we'll be watching and hopefully talk again soon.
Yeah, I'd love to, Paul. I appreciate that. And listen, I mean, any sleep-deprived listeners out there who have nothing to do in the middle of the night or get up early in the morning, give us a try. It's live sports down here, and these matches can turn into something unexpected and fun, as Nadal's match did. But I appreciate the time. Good to talk to you.
Our pleasure. Talk soon. Thanks, Chris.
You bet.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Jeff is next up in Chicago. Hey, Jeff.
Hey, what's up, Paul?
Doing great, thanks.
Oh, outstanding. I'm actually doing great too. I know the holidays are long over, but I'm feeling real thankful today, I gotta say, for a number of things. First and foremost is I'm feeling thankful for our great POTUS, Barack Obama. I mean, what a guy. Not only is unemployment down, not only has he made gas prices go down, which I know has been a hot-button type of issue for Tammy, who has to take a credit card out to drive to the Auburn National Championship game when they play Oregon in Arizona. And by the way, Tammy, in case you're listening, I just wanted to remind you of what a great set you have, which is, going back to when she posted that picture of her puppies that time, Paul. But Barack Obama's also restored the Big Ten to national champion status, and he's lowered his golf score by 20 strokes while he's been in office. I
don't understand. I haven't played golf in almost 2 years, and I'm not the president of the United States. Barack Obama is, and he plays like 3 times a week, and he's a single-digit handicap. What's the deal?
Dude, he's Superman. The guy can obviously do and accomplish anything, Paul. He's just on a different level is what it comes down to. I'm thankful to Bruce Pearl as well for letting John Boehner borrow his orange skin paint so that Republicans continue to appear to be creepy on TV. I'm thankful to the University of Georgia, Paul, because now, no matter how good Georgia's going to be, I know that through 2019, that's one team that I will never bet on futures to win the national championship, and that they'll continue to be the most underachieving college football program of all time. And, let's face it, they have some of the dumbest fans. They have certain fans who think that they were better without Todd Gurley this season. That's how dumb some of their fans are. I'm also thankful for SEC coaches, Paul, because they can't seem to recruit or develop quarterbacks. All the early predictions that have come out says that every other conference is going to have better quarterbacks than the SEC again next year. And, last but not least, really, Paul, I'm thankful for you the most because I really needed a nap, and you brought Chris Fowler on the show, and that puts me right to sleep. I appreciate it so much. Thank you, sir, and have a nice day.
Thank you, sir, and have a nice day. I don't know about I thoroughly enjoyed chatting with Chris Fowler, somebody I admired greatly, and I thought that was an interesting perspective. My only regret is that we didn't put Jeff completely out for good. That would have been a success story. Let's continue with more phone calls. Mike is in Dallas as this Mark Richt story seems to be trending at least on our show. Hey, Mike, good afternoon.
Hey, Paul. Long time hadn't talked to you.
Thank you.
I'm the veteran Army Ranger that used Schadenfreude that time to describe
my goodness.
fans.
Yeah, well, that was a big moment on the show.
Well, it was for me. It was my first time calling. But anyway, I wanted to, and I'm thankful that that last caller's off. But
we all are.
I wanted to respond to your last caller before Chris Fowler, Jim from Athens. Very nice gentleman about the University of Georgia and Mark Richt. Mark Richt got a extension and a raise because he deserved it. There's one team that's ranked higher than the University of Georgia in the final poll, and that's Alabama. Georgia ranked 9th. I don't see how you could say it was a mediocre season when they finished 10-3. And he's the dean of SEC coaches. When he got the Georgia job, he was Nick Saban was still at Michigan State. So he's to get $4 million a year.
Well, let me just say one thing. The other side of Mark, we're in the same boat, but I think this is correct. Over the last 2 years, Georgia's been favored, I think, in every game but 1 or 2, and they've lost a number of games. I think they've lost 7 or 8 games over the last 2 years. That's what frustrates.
14 in the last 4 years, and I understand.
Yeah, but I'm talking about the last 2 years. That's what frustrates fans, though. It frustrates Alabama fans. They've been favored in every game since December of 2009, and when the favored team loses, it's harder to handle. And you look at what Urban Meyer has done as an underdog, and to me that plays into coaching.
I understand, and let me say something about the national championship thing. It's not like that he hasn't been close. 2002, this is just my opinion, But Georgia finished third, and I thought they should have been in the national championship game against Alabama over Ohio State. That's just my opinion. It didn't play out that way. If there had been a playoff, Georgia would have been in the playoffs that year. 2007, they were better than LSU, who won the national championship that year. They finished the season, and everybody said that Georgia was the best team in the country. In 2012, when Alabama won a national championship, who had them on the ropes in the SEC championship game and ran out of time on the 5-yard line? It was the University of Georgia, and you telling me?
Well, hold on. They didn't run out of time. I mean, Georgia was about to put that game away.
That's what I'm saying. Georgia ran out of time and had
No. Georgia was ahead in that game and had Alabama on the ropes, and they let Alabama come back.
Okay.
And then Alabama let Georgia come back on that final drive. I mean, Alabama had seemingly won the game with, and there was I think a pass interference call that I thought had ended the game, and then Georgia got the ball back. But listen, none of that matters. Alabama won the game.
They did win the game. I'm just saying it's not like they haven't been close. He's won 74% of his games, and I know they say, well, we're not Alabama. We're just not. I mean, Georgia's got the 5th best high school recruiting as far as, number of kids going to college. We've got a great recruiting base, and it's not like he's not recruiting. You just had an ESPN analyst on there that had Georgia as the 4th best class. Going into next month, the National Recruiting Day, I mean, come on. You're going to talk about it's puerile. That's a $2 adjective for you. It's puerile to talk about firing a guy that just finished in the top 10. I mean, they finished higher than Mississippi State. They had a couple bad losses. They finished higher than Ole Miss. They had bad losses. There's beside Nick Saban, who's the best coach to me since Bear Bryant, there's no other coach I would rather have at our flagship university than
Okay, listen, Mike, we agree on a lot. We have some disagreement. Here is Georgia's schedule. For those who aren't watching, I'll read it to you. Monroe opener, certainly no big challenge there. That's a pretty pathetic opener. At Vanderbilt, South Carolina at home, that's been a problem. Southern, another really challenging game. And then October 3rd, that is going to be one of the defining games, I think, of next season. Alabama at Georgia on October 3rd. Think about this for a second. More than likely, I think Georgia will be undefeated at this point. Win or lose that game, turn around and go to Tennessee the next week. If it's a loss, that's a tough 2-game stretch because Tennessee is going to be coming on October 17th, Missouri, October 31st, you know it. It is Florida, Kentucky, November 14th at Auburn, November 21st, Georgia Southern, and then at Georgia Tech. The non-conference games, Georgia Southern, Monroe, yeah, I've seen better. But Georgia Tech is certainly going to be an interesting team to keep your eye on.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
Ed Aschoff with us from ESPN.com. A number of things we want to talk to Ed about. He covers the SEC. Ed, always good to visit. We thought the Georgia story was going to be put to bed today. We mentioned it 2 hours ago. And next thing you know, people are saying, fire the guy. You cover, Mark Rick well. And, I think we all understand the angst. But try to explain his situation, why they did it, and what the future looks like.
Well, I think really, Rick's been one of the most successful coaches in the SEC. Certainly the last decade, no coach outside of Nick Saban has really had this success when you look at wins, he and Les Miles. But I think the angst really came from Georgia fans for 2 reasons. They haven't had an SEC championship since 2005, and he's never been to a national championship. They came really close in 2007, and who knows, hey, maybe if we had a playoff back then, they might have played for it. But I think that's something that has certainly held, Georgia fans back from really embracing Mark Richt, because look at how much talent comes out of the state of Georgia. And you look around, and Urban Meyer won 2 national championships at Florida, 1 in his second year. Nick Saban wins in 2009. Les Miles wins in 2007. Gus Malzahn watched Gene Chizik win, and then he goes to the national championship his first year at Auburn. All these other schools have done so well in a short amount of time with the coaches that have been in since he's been in the league. And Georgia's just sitting there saying, well, we went to the East 2 years in a row and lost in the last couple of seasons. So I think that the direction of the program is he's still recruiting at a high level. They're still winning enough games to be incredibly competitive. They should have won the East this year. I don't think there's anybody, maybe people inside Columbus, Missouri are feeling a little differently. But I think this says that this year, they have what it takes to win not just the East. They can win the SEC. They can be in the playoffs. And to get $4 million a year, Greg McGarity is saying, we know what you can do, but I also think there's that feeling of, can they do it now? I still think there's that hesitation by Georgia fans saying, it's been long enough, let's get a title. Now you get an extension like, okay, let's do it right now.
Yeah, his last SEC championship in 2005, he's won 2. We all know about that. He's also lost 3. Most people would be pretty pleased. I mean, Spurrier has gotten to 1, and it was seemed like a lifetime achievement award for anyone who works in Columbia, South Carolina. We talked about the schedule next year, Ed, and had Georgia take at the end of the season, that still haunts some Georgia fans the way that game worked out. But there's not much doubt the feature game of the year, at least for Georgia to gain some momentum, is early in October 3rd to be exact, against Alabama. How big do you think that will be?
Oh, I think it's a huge game, and, one advantage that they're going to have, it's at home. A little bit of another advantage, we don't know what to expect from Alabama next season. I know that just carrying the name Alabama and having Nick Saban as your head coach automatically puts you in the top 10 every season, but only 2 starters come back on offense. I think they're going to have to rework that defense. Obviously, they lose 2 coaches on the defensive side. And if Alabama is going to compete for the SEC West next year, look at how strong Auburn looks right now on paper, just because of Will Muschamp coming over there to take over a defense of the shambles, and they still return so much on offense. And I think that they're going to be okay moving the ball. Now if they start stopping people, I think Auburn right now is kind of the favorite there in the West. And you look over at Alabama, every year you say, all right, well, they have the top defense. They've got to figure out how to stop the spread. And, I hinted at it today in a story that I wrote about offenses, that for all the good that Nick Saban has done the last couple of years, we've seen some flaws in the philosophy that they have on defense. And whatever it's going to take, they're going to need to change that. Now, they're not going to have to worry about that against Georgia, but they still have probably the best running back in the SEC, if not the country, in Nick Chubb. They're a quarterback away, I think, on offense, but they return a lot of depth at wide receiver, 4 starting offensive linemen. So that's an offense that you can't fool around with, getting that home crowd. And they know if they win that game, they're going to have a ton of momentum going into the second half. And if you lose it, then you kind of start to think, is this the same old Georgia all over again?
Well, let me, we're talking about so many different things here. Let me ask you about Alabama. So right now, and again, Alabama is a national championship contender every year, and 12-2 almost seems like the end of the world. But what do you see? What do you see for Alabama next year? I sense you don't see them as the SEC West champion, based on what you said about Auburn.
If I had to pick right now, I would pick Auburn. And, I remember coming on your show early last year, and I said Alabama's going to win the SEC, and my Twitter just lit up. Everybody said, oh, it's just because it's Alabama. And they did it. So I've got a little bit of a track record. I'm batting 1,000 on your show right now. But I do think that defensively they've got to improve. Those young corners, Marlon Humphrey, Tony Brown, have got to be the guys, I think. I think they're the most talented cornerback. And there's some debate were they the most talented last season. Maybe they just weren't ready for the limelight of playing there. But for as bad as they played on the outside against good teams who could throw the ball, I think you could really throw anyone out there and just let them take their chance. They lose 4 starters. I think obviously the biggest one is Landon Collins because he could just do so much. But I think they're really athletic still up front. I think Deshaun is a guy to keep an eye on. Sean Evans and certainly Ashawn Robinson, who was a really disruptive defensive tackle this season and certainly last season. He just doesn't put up the stats that everybody kind of considers sexy. But I really do wonder what they're going to do offensively. I mean, the rumors about Lane Kiffin, both for the NFL, and regardless of who's the guy, they got to figure out the quarterback situation. They've got to replace 3 starters in the offensive line, and Amari Cooper isn't coming back. Can Chris Black be that guy? Can Cam Sims, a guy who played very limited last year on special teams, he be that new guy who I think has a chance, to play well at receiver, but is O.J. Howard going to turn into that tight end that everybody's been waiting for, that game changer? I honestly think there are a ton of questions at Alabama right now that I'm just not confident enough to say that they can win the West. But when you have Nick Saban still there, he's that genius. He's that guy who probably likes the pressure or the lack of pressure going into the season because they lose so much. It's tough to count them out, but I think right now on paper they're not the favorite.
Realistically, and we deal in the real world, where would you put them? And if you had to make a wild guess on the record right now, what would it be?
I put Auburn first in the West, and if Ole Miss had the quarterback situation in a stable position, I would put them number 2 because they return so much on defense and offense. I guess I'm a little hesitant right now because I just don't know what they're going to do at quarterback. But I would still put Alabama 2 in the West just because of Saban. I mean, Nick Saban is that good of a coach. And
listen, Ed, we all know about Saban. We spend too much time talking about him. But you're torn, though, between putting Alabama 2nd and 3rd, if I'm hearing you correctly. Stop me if I'm not.
No, you're absolutely right. And I think that Nick Saban is the key. I mean, he's the guy. If he wasn't there, then I would absolutely have Ole Miss number 2. I think that their talent right now is something that you see as superior overall to Alabama from what we expect to see next year on paper. The coaching is where I think Alabama takes that extra step.
What if Lane Kiffin leaves?
I think the issue with that is that they've still been consistent on offense. They had a record-setting year. I want to see the kind of guy they bring in. Are they going to try and run tempo again? Are they going to spread things out a little bit more like they did this season? I think that they would have to bring in a guy like Kiffin who can step in front of Nick Saban and call plays and not be afraid to be aggressive. Now, he's going to have to run the ball more in key situations like they didn't do against Ohio State. But I think he would be a big loss because he helped transform not just what they did on offense, but the attitude that they had on offense. And he was a guy kind of like Dan Mullen when he was at Florida who wasn't afraid to say, this is what we're going to do, Urban. Watch what I do and watch what it happens.
Finally, do you read anything into, 2 coaches have left. We all know about that. One may be leaving. Questions about the way the season ended. I'm not trying to paint too dark a picture about someone who finished the season 4th in the country, but at Alabama, that's not considered a good year.
No, and I think this is a team that everybody thought would win the national championship. I think Kim Steele being up for a defensive coordinating job, that's different. Lance Thompson leaving. And if you've read Nick Saban's comments from yesterday or earlier today, it didn't seem like they left on the best page. So I wonder, what happened there internally. But I do agree with you. Expectations are so high there, and I bet they get the coaches. I'm sure they don't get to Nick Saban because he's been through this before. But, when you're not performing at any level on that coaching staff, you're going to hear about it, especially on the defensive side. And I think Kirby Smart's even taking hits right now to read social media. So I know Alabama fans aren't happy, and they're especially not happy losing to Ohio State.
Well, Ed, my advice to you as we end, you don't need to be reading social media after this interview.
The Alabama people love me. There's no way they're offended by anything I said, right?
Hey, listen, it's always cool. Good to talk to you, and I hope to see you soon, Ed.
All right, sounds good.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
We had a graphic up on our screen earlier. Where is Charles? We haven't heard from this man in so long. We asked the big swagoo, Marcus Spears, to find him. And there's a reason I like Marcus Spears, because when you ask Marcus Spears to find someone, he gets the job done. He's the best in the business. Marcus, we're indebted to you at least through the next call. It's been a long time since I said the words, Charles from Reeltown. Charles, good afternoon, my friend.
Good afternoon, Paul. Marcus Spears didn't have nothing to do with finding me. He don't know nothing about Reeltown, where it is, or nothing else. All he knows is in Alabama, if he knows that. He ain't nothing. He ain't big swagoo. What's a swagoo? A big old fat tackle that's past his prime trying to make a living on ESPN? He wasn't no good football player. He sure ain't no good analyst. All he does is laugh at something, laughs at jokes that ain't funny. He ain't nothing. Marcus Spears don't know nothing about me. He don't know where to find me. All I know, I called in because everybody was looking for me. Well, you found me. What you want with me?
Well, my my question, Charles, where have you been?
Been down here in Reeltown. Where you think? That's where I live.
Where have you been since January 1st when Auburn lost to Wisconsin in the Outback Bowl?
Barely lost. They didn't lose like Alabama did. Alabama had a chance to play in the Final Four for the national championship.
No, Charles, Alabama did play. Alabama did play in the Final Four, Charles.
Urban Meyer out-coached old Nick Saban. Now Nick Saban, he don't know which way to go. He don't know what to do. Coaches leaving him. Players is going elsewhere. You got old player now that's done beat up on a woman somewhere. What's his name? You know his name. I can't think of it right now. I don't know him like you do. They getting at all kinds. Something going on down there. Something bad going on. I don't know what it is. Maybe the NCAA is investigating. There's something bad going on down there, and Nick Saban don't know which way to go. If you don't watch out, he's going to be up there in that nervous hospital with straitjacket Jim wearing the straitjacket himself, because he don't know nothing. He don't know what's going on. All he knows, he's in a panic mode.
Well, it looks like you got one of his coaches down there in Auburn, Lance Thompson.
Yeah, why is that? Why is all his coaches leaving him? We'll take him. I tell you what it is. They can't get along with Nick Saban. He's blaming him for everything. He's the one that's the head man up there. He's supposed to be running the show. Assistant coaches ain't be running the show. Lane Kiffin's fixing to leave it. What's he going to do then? He had to depend on the offense last year because the defense wasn't worth a flip, especially the defensive back of whom he coaches.
Charles, let me ask you on a personal level. We haven't spoken to you in a couple of weeks. Where have you been? What have you been doing, and why haven't you been calling?
I ain't been doing nothing. I'm still waiting for a slice of that pie.
Of our pie?
Yeah, y'all's pie. ESPN's pie.
Okay.
Disney's pie. That don't make no difference to me.
Okay, let's talk, you and me. What do you name? Let me start. I mean, I'm not a professional negotiator, but what would it take to keep you on board here on the show?
I think you know that better than I do.
No, I mean, just give me a starting figure, and I'll go to my bosses and see what
I do. I feel like I need to be appreciated.
Okay.
I'm really
what? Well, listen, I agree. You are appreciated. We went looking. What? Give me a number. I mean, we talking about $50 a week? What are we talking about?
Listen, man. ESPN's got the dough. Disney's got the
Okay, Charles, you drive a hard bargain.
Okay,
Charles, you drive a hard bargain. I've just got approval. We'll go to $100 a week.
That's chicken feed. I ain't going for that.
Charles, have you ever been in a negotiation? Somebody makes an offer.
You need me now, don't you? You need me.
We do.
Football season's over with. You ain't got nothing to talk about. You ain't got no entertainment. You haven't thought about that before you got so stingy and everything. Don't want to share the wealth.
Why don't you make a counter offer, Charles? I mean, I've offered you $100. That's my second offer. Give me a counter.
$200 a day.
200 a day?
A day.
We don't even pay Jim from Tuscaloosa that.
God, if you paid him anything, it'd be too much. Why ain't he been calling in? He back up there in that nervous hospital up there in Tuscaloosa in that straitjacket in room number 9.
Charles, let me have your agent call us. Okay, we'll be in touch.
This is the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast.
If you're just joining us, it's been an extraordinary show for all the wrong reasons. We've had important guests, important news, but the most satisfying part of this program occurred a couple hours ago. We put up a graphic on the screen. Where is Charles? Unlikely that he would be found in Tuscaloosa, Reeltown. We knew that's where he was last seen. He threatened to go to Georgia, and we put Marcus Spears in charge, Inspector Swagoo. You may remember Marcus and Charles got into it a couple of different times where Charles threatened to beat up Marcus, and of course, they need to explain. Marcus is a former lineman with the Dallas Cowboys. There's a picture of Marcus hunting Charles. And earlier today, Charles was found, and we're now joined. This is an exclusive interview, by the way. Only ESPN and the SEC Network have this. We have tracked down Inspector Swagoo. Inspector Swagoo, thanks for being with us.
P-Town, what's up, man? I heard everybody was asking me where I was. as you've told everybody, looking for Charles, man. I was looking for him.
Before we get to that, I don't know how we can explain this, but you became a Twitter sensation yesterday. Would you like to? Would you like to tell the audience? Because I certainly don't want to.
Brother, it was horrible. It was horrible, man. Autocorrect on everybody's cell phone is the devil, man.
So you essentially were saying you were going. You were trying to say
duck hunting.
You said you wanted to say you were going duck hunting on Twitter, except
I wanted to say duck time, whack 'em, right? So it's kind of like the lingo in hunting, but autocorrect struck, man.
Autocorrect did what?
It put the wrong letter for you in there. It substituted an I for the U, man.
Well, I mean, it was still a vowel, wasn't it?
Yeah. And my wife tried to justify it. She said at least the I is pretty close to the U on the typing keyboard on the phone.
So instead of duck hunting, let me make all of our bosses nervous here. You said something else, I instead of a U, and it went out to many people. What did you do then?
Well, I got the message on Twitter, actually. Somebody said, hey, you might want to check your Twitter. So I looked. And
now, we're talking about your Twitter account, not something else, right?
Right, my Twitter account. And I was like, what happened? I'm thinking there's some big controversy in college football or something went down. And then I looked at it, and I saw about 100 retweets, people telling me, hey, man, what's going on? So the only way I could justify it is that I erased the tweet, but by that time it's out. That's why all these young fellas out there in the world, they got to watch what they say. So I erased the tweet, but it was already out. But thank goodness I was already duck hunting, and I sent pictures of me duck hunting to kind of justify to people that what was tweeted at first was not supposed to be tweeted, and it related to what I was doing at the current moment. So,
well, Inspector, I'm glad we got that. Inspector Swagger, don't go anywhere because someone would like, I assume, to thank you for rescuing him. So Charles from Reeltown, you're on now with Inspector Swagoo.
Inspector Swagoo. What is a Swagoo?
Charles, it's something you'll never be, brother. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, you just tell me what it is. I'll decide where I'll be one or not.
Hey, why everybody in the world got to look for you, Charles? Why you can't call and check in and let everybody know you all right and where you at in the world?
Ain't none of your business.
Okay, all right.
What I want.
You want to start off on this foot once again, right?
Yes, I do.
You want to do this again? Okay. I cannot wait, bro. I cannot wait.
How did you get a job on ESPN?
Hey, you know what's bad for you? You know what's bad for you, Charles?
What?
What's so bad for you is that I've been training with John Bones Jones in the UFC, and I got something for you, brother.
I got something
for you. All that talk, man.
I've been going out in the pasture knocking cows in the head.
You been cow tipping, Charles?
I'm talking about bulls.
Man, you ain't getting
man.
Charles, you ain't met a bull yet.
If I knock a bull in the head, knock him out, I can sure knock you out.
I'm the first bull. You gonna try to knock out. You ain't really knocked out a bull yet. All right, brother.
Hey, Marcus, did you say you're not going into? Did you say you're training? You're not going to become a UFC fighter, are you?
Who?
Nah, I'm just getting ready for Charles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's all I'm doing.
Good.
I got one fight in 2015.
You think we could make this the? Hey, Charles, do you think we can make this the undercard for Mayweather? Almost went Gus Malzahn on Mayweather and go ahead. I'm sorry. What was that?
Make it happen, P-Town. Go ahead, Charles.
Huh?
You got the floor, Charles. Go ahead.
I said I want your first match to be with me.
Oh, yeah. I'm only training for one fight, Charles. You.
Well, I'm only training for one fight, too.
I'm one and done. Once I get one knockout, I'm done. I retire the champ. So
See,
I'm 1-0.
You gonna retire, all right? You gonna see the emergency room, and after you get out of that emergency room, you'll retire. You can't take Charles Reeltown. I'm sad, man.
I hope I can get you in the ring, Charles. I don't even know if you're gonna show up.
You name a time, place, and where, and I'll be there. Of course, you'll have to supply the ticket up there. I ain't got no money.
Charles, we got you covered. I mean, we're a big company. I promise you, man. I mean, this, I mean, you thought 35 million people watching the national championship game was a lot. I think we could top that, don't you, Marcus?
Man, absolutely. We'll sell that thing out, Charles. The good thing about the fight we're gonna have, Charles, is that you gonna get a hefty paycheck, brother.
What?
So you can't lose. You can't lose. You're gonna lose the fight, but you're not gonna lose the battle because you're gonna get a real big paycheck.
Oh, a real big one?
Yeah, that's what you're looking for anyway. Charles, you don't want to fight me. You're just looking for a paycheck. You're just looking for a paycheck, Charles.
Ain't you?
I'm looking for a fight.
I ain't getting one.
Hey, Charles, let me explain something to you about Marcus. Okay, I mean, we were negotiating. I mean, I don't know. You told me what you did once. I won't reveal it unless you want to tell the audience what you do for a living.
I give country boy ass whoopings in my spare time.
Okay. Okay. Well, Marcus, in case you didn't know this, played in the National Football League for 9 years.
Oh, what? Big deal. He's old, fat, and out of shape. He's a has-been, wannabe. He's a has-been, wannabe ESPN analyst.
Charles, the point is, I don't need the check. You need the check, Charles.
I need the check. You can't blame right. I need a check. What am I going to get a check?
I want the fight. You want the check. I give you my purse. All $25 of it.
What?
I say I give you my side of the purse. All $25 of it.
What's my side of the purse?
We'll give you $50. You'll leave that fight with $75.
I wouldn't even get in the ring with you for $50.
Okay, Charles.
Charles, it'll be enough for you to go to the emergency room, Charles.
Charles,
go to the emergency room because I'm gonna send you there. I told
Charles, listen, this can't last all night. We have other things to do, but I mean, give me a number. Forget being on the show. What's the bottom line? What would it cost you to get in the ring with Marcus Spears?
Well, I had about $1,000.
1,000?
Yeah.
Done.
Done.
Oh, wait a minute.
Done.
More than that.
Okay, Charles, I'm pulling the money out right now. We got a deal, okay? $1,000.
Got a deal.
No, I want to renegotiate that.
No. You agreed to the deal for $1,000. I don't have it. I've got about $50 in my wallet. I shouldn't have said that.
We got to renegotiate this.
Can you give me a walk? Can you walk me to the car with this much money in my wallet?
With that big $50, Paul.
$50. But Charles, I will get you between Marcus and a number of my friends. We'll come up with 1,000. And
I told you we got to renegotiate that.
No. That's it.
My mouth too soon.
No, it's too bad. You will have your mouth. I'll make you a deal. We'll pay you $1,000, and I personally will drive you to the emergency room.
No, you can be driving to the emergency room. I tell you what, will you give me $5,000 for the rematch?
No, well, we'll talk about that after the first fight. We want to make sure you can still stand up.
Oh, stand up, man. I told you I've been knocking bulls in the head, knocking them out. Marcus Spears can put on his whole football uniform, helmet and all, and I still knock him out.
You gonna knock me out?
I've been cracking Cal's head. I crack his head.
I tell you what, if we had a battle of words, brother, you would definitely win it. You would win it.
I win at everything I do.
But it's unfortunate that you can't battle with words. You got to throw some hands, man.
And you gonna find that out, big boy.
Okay. All right. Well, you keep going in the backyard.
Marcus, I don't know the last little guy who called you a big boy, but I bet he didn't last very long, did he?
He didn't last long. I can't wait.
I can't wait. As long as I want to last. I'm gonna last long enough to knock you out.
Hey, P-Town, tell Charles to send in some video of him knocking them cows and bulls
Okay,
out.
we will. Okay, hey, Marcus, thank you. This has been the most entertainment I've had in a long time. So we'll continue this. Thanks, Marcus. Thanks, Charles. Fight's on. We got the purse. It's $1,000. We'll need to find the ring, and we think we can find a network to cover it.
Thank you for listening to the best of the Paul Finebaum podcast. Tune into the Paul Finebaum Show every day from 3 to 7 Eastern on the SEC Network or on the ESPN Radio app.
Geico presents Strange Savings Stories. Astronomers detected an interstellar transmission. It stated, Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more. The implications were staggering. Was the cosmos telling us we could all save hundreds on car insurance with Geico? Or did their radar merely pick up a signal from the nearby Rufus and Clyde's morning show? We may never know.
Geico, 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on car insurance.